Would you like to be able to super boost your creativity when using mnemonics and memory palaces to learn foreign language vocabulary? Well, in this Q&A, I'm going to give you some tips. And this Q&A has to do with Tagalog, but just imagine that it has to do with any language that you may be memorizing the vocabulary from and learning in general. So the letter goes, Dr. Metivier, I like when you talk through your mnemonic devices. The Brazilian YouTube lesson was neat to see you walk through different aspects until you reached your final mnemonic. Not so much the destination, but listening to your journey in the mnemonic helped me think through some tough ones. I am studying Tagalog and Bisaya, which both use the word nya and has the velour sound at the beginning. Nya means so or indeed. It is also the beginning of, and here I'm not particularly sure of the pronunciation, but I think it means it would be nagan, and likewise it is found in teeth, and now, which is nyan, or nayan, I think is probably the better way to pronounce it. I, in full disclosure, have not studied Tagalog, but I think that the principles are all the same. So the letter continues, I was wondering, could you talk out loud or write out loud through a mnemonic for these words, since there is not a word in English that starts with ng? I'm just hitting a brick wall in working around these words and would love to hear your train of thought to overcome this. The first thing is, so Tagalog has words that start with a sound that isn't in English, but we have things like sing, sang, machine gun has this kind of nya sound, and we can hack this. It's very, very simple. I think that, first of all, the trick is, at least from my perspective, is to simply relax and see what comes into your imagination. Immediately, when looking at this example from Tagalog, I see Charlton Heston doing his National Rifle Association shtick. Now, of course, NRA and NG are not the same thing, but it's enough for me because I can willfully misread NRA as the National Gun Association. And from then on, it's just a matter of creating an alphabetical list of words that start with NG or NGA and popping them into a memory palace and having Charlton Heston with a gun involved in each and every piece of associative imagery. So thus, Nagalan becomes Charlton Heston firing a gun at a giant name tag or a shield on the chest of my friend Alan. Again, I'm not exactly sure how these words are pronounced, but Charlton Heston would be shooting teeth from the gun at Pin, who is a medical dummy in a film I really liked called Pin. Well, I still like it, and you should see it because it's just one of the most bizarre films ever, a Canadian film. Really, really great. In any case, so the thing that really needs to be worked on here is that because I don't know the proper pronunciation of these words, because I'm not at the moment studying Tagalog, the thing that needs to be pointed out here, because I'm not currently studying this language, is that you would want to make your associative imagery not only help you get the meaning of the word, like having Heston shoot teeth helps me remember what the word means because of teeth, and the whole idea of the NRA being linked with the NGA, or the fact that the word starts with NG, that all is great, but at some level you also want the image to help you recall the pronunciation. That's the whole thing about the magnetic memory method, is you give a location, so you find the word in a memory palace, you give the action that helps either recall the spelling or the pronunciation, and you give the image, which also helps with the meaning and ideally the pronunciation, so that you can recall all three. You're maximizing your chances of bringing all this stuff together if you're interested in using mnemonics to help memorize foreign language vocabulary. Now, all this said, another major trick here, apart from just letting your imagination do its thing while being in a state of relaxation, is to make sure that whatever you come up with is sufficiently interesting, that it's concrete, and that you can combine it with other things. So, for example, if you were going to use a concept like not green as an association to help you get NG, well, that's a negative based upon a non-concrete concept. So some people might get away with this in their imagination, but for most, it's going to be too vague, and there's nothing to play with not green in order to generate associations with other word parts. So certainly not green would never work for me, because there's nothing to play around with a negative. Not orange wouldn't work either. What is that? I don't know. I can't see not orange. So we need to really work with something more concrete. So what if you do, though, if you're not like me, in terms of being able to relax and have a flood of associations come up relatively instantly, like Charlton Heston and so forth, well, you have a number of options. The first thing to do is to wait. If things don't come instantly, just wait a while You know that feeling when you have a word or a name on the top of your tongue, but it refuses to emerge? Well, the classic answer is just to focus on something else, and more often than not, then the name will suddenly pop into your head. And the same thing goes here. Just wait, chill out. Maybe something will come within 5 minutes, maybe even an hour. It's worth it, because if it helps you memorize that word and adds to your pool of vocabulary, then it will be worth the wait. The second thing is to actively look for concrete associations. A quick search for famous people with the initials NG brought to me Newt Gingrich. And I have a very solid image of this figure in mind because even as a Canadian, he's been prominent in the media for a great deal of my life, so I could use him. So one of the things you can do to dig your wells before you get thirsty and you want to use mnemonics is to actively keep a list of famous people, either on paper or just simply in your mind. So artists, actors, musicians, people who are famous for no other reason apart from the fact that they are famous, it doesn't matter. If you know who they are, you can begin to draw upon them. And not just because of how their initials or how that their names might contribute to something, but also that they're just memorable people. That's what they are designed, so to speak, to do. That's why they're famous, is because there's something naturally memorable about them, or something that they've developed through the craft of studying acting, studying presentation, or whatever. Usually it's a combination of both. There's just something about them and that they've studied their craft. Now, the fourth tip I would give you is to stretch. Just like I could turn NG into NRA and Charlton Heston because that's the way my mind works and it won't cause any stumbling with the sufficient amount of rehearsal, you can also practice stretching yourself. Call it magnetic mental yoga if you like. So NG could be someone that you know named Angie, or it could become Angel. It could involve nuclear bombs falling on Los Angeles, as in the film Miracle Mile, or in the Terminator movies. It could also involve fracking, and you just stretch a little and practice stretching as part of your recall exercises. And the more you stretch, the more you find that one-to-one correspondences are not necessary in your mnemonic associations. If they were necessary, then, you just need to work on developing ways to stretch, and it's very, very beautiful. So magnetic mental yoga. Now, if you're a person who likes Asian cinema and literature, in the case of this Tagalog example, then you're really in a treat, because words or names that start with NG, actually many people have them in those cultures, and many of them are celebrities because they're memorable and they've honed their craft as actors, singers, and so forth. So regardless of how you collect your celebrities or your famous people and pool of associations, the more you simply maintain an awareness of how useful the culture around you can be, the more you can prepare your imagination to absorb these elements and draw from them at will. So it's like dreaming while you're awake, which when you think about it is what you're doing anyway. We're always dreaming all the time. If we're not fantasizing about something in the past and lost in that past that we've built through fantasy, then we're projecting into the future. We're thinking about the future, we're fantasizing about the future, we're doing all kinds of future-oriented things. And if we're in the present, we're usually fantasizing about an alternative version of the present. So instead of working here at a desk, I really wish that I was in Hawaii or something like that. So we're always dreaming, we're always in fantasy. It's just the way that our mind works. But the more that you actually pay attention to your fantasies and pay attention to the fantasies that you consume, such as movies and so forth, the more you are able to come up with amazing material for using in mnemonics and memory palaces. It's really, really wonderful how all that works. This is also why I created the How to Remember Your Dreams training book. And not only can you use this to develop a pool of associations in combination with drawing from the culture of your entertainment and from politics and general celebrity, but you can train your mind to recall dreams at a much higher level, which promotes creative thinking, gives you material that you can use in exercises that will make you more visual in your imagination, and being able to recall your dreams in general makes life much better because you understand yourself better, how your unconscious works, and how your conscious mind works in response to your unconscious. So I hope these ideas help to the person who asked the question, and to anybody who's either studying Tagalog or using mnemonics and memory palaces to memorize foreign language vocabulary. And I hope that you'll get in touch if you have any further questions. And if you're interested in remembering your dreams, howtorememberyourdreams.com. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.